Welcome to the newest video, soldiers. Today we're going to be doing the 1.3 patch tier list. I wanted to go over this because we just randomly saw a 1.4 patch come out and then they just dropped it literally the next day. So we had no buffer time. It's kind of already out there in the ether. You can't really change what's already been going on, but because they nerfed a lot of things, I was thinking it would probably be best to do my tier list and then go over the 1.4 tier list in the future because they did buff and nerf a lot. Once we start experimenting in the newest patch and getting used to that patch, I have a feeling a lot of things are going to change because they just nerfed Gerald and they just nerfed a lot of things, and El Tigre was also another character that I thought is not going to be as broken as he used to be. So we're going to do this right now. First of all, everybody knows, if you've been watching this channel for a while, I think El Tigre is broken. I've always thought he's broken since the game came out. He had obviously really crazy moves, really crazy fast things. He didn't have a lot of bad parts of his kit. A lot of people were saying like, oh, other characters have to play perfect and they play optimal, they can beat El Tigre. But the thing is nobody ever talks about the fact that if El Tigre is playing optimal and perfect as well, how does your character stack up? I think that because we saw 1.4 nerf him, that this tier list is going to be different just because El Tigre actually got the nerf hammer so badly that I think that he's going to be probably A tier after this. But as it standed currently, before the patch had occurred, I really did think El Tigre was super strong. Like, I had not even changed my mind about it, didn't even bat an eye, because this character's got it all. The only thing that he has that is like worse on him is the fact that he has stubby range, but he's got that grab and he can even combo into it and extend things kind of ridiculously. So I think that he stands to lose the most from getting these nerfs that he just got. But as of 1.3, I think that he actually was so strong. That's why they had to bring him back in the next patch that just came out. Speaking of another character that was really strong, literally Raphael was the most obnoxious character until 1.4 came out, because this character could just spam all his broken moves that kill and stall him in the air. He could literally aerial up smash in the air, like literally air charge his up smash, and he would not die. That move by itself was carrying him because there's apparently was an intangibility on his head that I didn't even know about, and every time I tried to get him from above when he would try to do that, nothing would happen to him because he had intangibility. So he had to get brought back down. And the next tier list we're going to do for 1.4, I really believe he's going to be maybe a little bit worse. I don't think that it was super bad for them to do these nerfs to him. He kind of deserved it, but he's not going to be the pinnacle. A lot of people were saying he was S tier, one of the best characters in the game, and while I agree he was one of the best, which is why he's in the top of A tier, I don't think he was as ridiculous as El Tigre, who is like a Fox Falco rushdown character just like Garfield. Speaking of Garfield, I still think Garfield's really broken now. Everybody was saying, oh, Cake Assault's not doing good anymore. It's because people learned what Cake Assault was doing and they're learning what the Garfields do. Garfield can't get away with as much stuff because he got nerfed, but mostly also because everybody's catching up in neutral and punish game. With people being able to be better at their character and being able to find nuances that, you know, not every single character is going to have or understand, I feel like El Tigre and Garfield, because they are just like the Spaceys in Melee, they are one of the best characters because they can just change it like that. They can change so much things in a second, and the fact that Garfield played at perfection actually is more scary than El Tigre. But the reason I think El Tigre in this patch was better was just because the fact that El Tigre literally didn't have to do as much as Garfield, whereas Garfield has to play more perfect. Now, if we're talking about optimal scenarios, we might make an optimal tier list, but even looking at this right now, if all three of these characters were played optimally, it would be a tug of war between all three of them, because I don't think Azula is up there anymore. I think Azula may land a little bit worse than other characters because she did get quite a bit of nerfs, and a lot of her character loyalists kind of dropped her, and they haven't really been playing her as much. She was sort of like the pinnacle of what it could be to have a tipper character with fire moves that knock back and have other things like hit stun, and they hurt harder and more. But the problem with Azula is that she's just getting the nerfs over and over again. They're just, even with this new patch that came out, they somehow decided to nerf her aerial like special. So like her projectile got nerfed in this new patch. Not only am I nervous about what it's going to feel like to play her in 1.4 or play against her, because I think that she's a little bit weaker. She's still strong, but I don't think she's the pinnacle that she used to be. With this new patch coming out, she's going to be lower than I have her now in the 1.3 tier list, but I am nervous as to see what they're going to keep doing to her, because if they really wanted her to be good, they would make her good. It seems like they're content on making her worse just because she is the character that is the hardest to deal with, and she has some of the most easy forgiving combos. If you miss it, you can just follow up still. As of 1.3, I thought she was balanced, but this extra nerf coming out in the newest patch, I think that's probably going to set her back a little more. Speaking of bad characters, I really do think Nigel's terrible still. I don't think he's good. The fact that he can't really combo or do anything guaranteed into his smashing thing and getting his rest off, which is just like a Jigglypuff mechanic. The dumps are nice, the movement's nice. They're barely adding a hitbox on his landing up special in the newest patch on 1.4. So in 1.3 he was not impressive, and in in this new patch, he will be better. As of right now, in my mind, for 1.3, I think that he's so lackluster that not only is he weird, he can do cool things. It's just that you can't consistently do them, you know? And that's a big problem when you can't do consistent moves and you can't get proper setups. You sort of get left in the dirt because everyone's just going to run circles around you. Either they camp you or they hit you when you can't hit back. Their guaranteed stuff is just way more devastating. So it's just kind of where Nigel lands in my mind. I think they're going to have to keep buffing him like they are in the new patch, but I'd imagine they're going to have to like reevaluate, because if they give him too much, he will be a menace. Gertie. I think Grandma Gertie, while she might not stay in the very, very top of A, I might change some things around. I think she's better than Azula just because of her burst and her mechanics. She's got projectiles. She effectively has some of the craziest stuff I've seen, not only because her friction was low on her side special, which is also getting changed in the new patch, but this patch, she's just felt insane to me. Way stronger than I thought she was when the game first came out, because I kind of thought she would have the same problem that Captain Falcon has where he can't come back. But she's got mix-ups. The thing is, they had to nerf her some more in the newest patch, so I think that she's probably going to be a little bit lower, but she is a menace. She hits you with her knee. The knee nerfs aren't going to change much. Those nerfs are all very small. I think everything they did to her negatively in the new patch is not going to change anything, because in the 1.3 patch, she was just ridiculous. Like, she had every ounce of advantage she could have. But I think that she's still really good, regardless of these things happening in 1.4. We will reevaluate how she is from the 1.4 patch notes that came out, but as of 1.3, the old patch, I think that she is really, really good. This was probably her best patch before she got the nerf hammer in the current patch. Aang, also a really good character. Apparently this character had something even more obnoxious than I knew. I didn't understand how this worked, but he had this air ball mechanic where if he had the air ball and he landed on you, he would just hit your shield over and over again until it broke, which is a little ridiculous and crazy. That's what made him so good, is because they didn't really address that until now in this new patch that came out recently. And that's one of the things where, like, if you play Aang, you know he's strong by nature, but they had to tone him down in the newest patch because he had been so unchecked for these other things that he was still doing. So I think Aang as a whole, he's a good character. If you play him, you know you love him and you care about him a lot, because that character kind of has it all. You have the extra jump, and that's really nice. Even though you're light, dying in this game doesn't really happen as often when you have the slime mechanic where you can slime burst, so he lives a lot longer than he's supposed to. So even in that right, he's a rushdown character. He's got a lot of things going for him. That Sheik needle where he throws the little ice needles, those are really good, and he's got a lot of things he can do. He can re-grab people. Like, he has a lot of things that I like about him. He's not going to change too much in the newest patch, I don't think, but he's still a menace. Now, I don't know if anybody saw this coming. Gerald was either S tier, like right below the space animals, or he's A tier. I'm still not sure how I'm going to order it, because Gerald has something ridiculous. Before this 1.4 patch came out, when he was in 1.3, he literally had an easy free combo from down throw. He could just down throw you at like 50 or 60, and if he hit you with his neutral air charge at a certain height, you just died. I had killed people at 60 and 70. They were just dying so easily, and it was actually scary to see how much knockback that move had by itself. That move itself almost makes him an S tier just by itself. And you know what? I might even just do that because Plup won Slime Box, and Plup is a melee player who's a Sheik main. You guys didn't know he was part of Panda Global. So yeah, I have a Panda Global bias because I was on Panda. But I will say, I didn't believe in Gerald until I started playing him. And then when I saw how Plup performed at the Slime Box and winning Slime Box, all I can think of is, yeah, Gerald was pretty broken. I didn't want to accept that he was S tier just because he had some glitches that needed to be fixed. But the thing is, now that he's got the nerf hammer coming in 1.4, he definitely isn't going to be S tier anymore. But that Nair by itself carried. That his neutral air, his like movement, even though he has like a terrible up special in terms of vertical mobility to get back to the map, I still think that he is really good. His combo game is insane. Probably one of the most free-flowing characters you can play and pick up right now. Him as a character is so expressive. Everybody plays him differently. People can camp with him or people can rush down, and that's not really something you can say about these other characters. Like, the other people who are above him play one way and that's it. Where Gerald is like a bag of tricks. He can literally do whatever he wants. Now the new patch kind of guts him a little bit, so I'm not sure where he's going to land in 1.4. I'll have to do some more experimenting, but definitely Gerald. I've heard a lot of people in the community telling me that he is S tier. After playing him, I can't say enough that I loved him. Like, I loved playing as Gerald, so I might actually continue to play him as a secondary because he's so fun. He was so ridiculous, such a broken character at the time, and he's probably not going to be as good anymore in 1.4. Patrick. Man, I'm torn about where to put Patrick. For Patrick, I wanted to put him right here just because in 1.3, he had like all these things that weren't addressed. There were glitches that like made him act out of dash attack sooner and all this other stuff. So like every time I fought like Patrick in person or like at a tournament, every single time they were doing crazy things that I didn't think they had the time to do. I just thought that he had a fast dash attack, and in reality that was not intended. He had a lot of things that were not intended, and they're patching it in the new patch on 1.4. But as of 1.3, the old patch, I think that he was super strong. He had only felt more broken as time went on, but the new patch is probably gonna make him worse off, maybe back in the B tier, but he was kind of up there. I think that he probably beats Gertie and Aang just because as a grappler, usually your stubby range screws you over, but Patrick has all these tools and things that he can do that make him ridiculous, that sort of makes up for that. And the fact that some of his opponents are light, they just die way earlier than normal. I'm surprised to put him up this high because I think he was in B tier the last time I did it, but the fact is, the more I fought them in tournament, the more I respect them a little too much because they scare me to a degree. Even though I know I can keep them out the entire game, once they get going, they go crazy. They get really ridiculous as the game goes on, and the meta has been changing to the point where they've evolved and become scary. Now that some of the things are getting patched out in 1.4, I don't really believe in him as much, but he'll be more of a respectable mid-tier. Korra. So here's the thing about Korra. She's definitely better than Azula, and if you're playing Azula over Korra right now, it's probably not worth it. That's probably why I see more Korras than any other character I've played, and it's probably because they've all dropped Azula. There's a lot of movement, mobility stuff that Korra can do, and she's got projectiles and a different way to play. You don't have to dive down there with like the aerial smash where you just dive out and like kick them and stuff like that. You don't have to do those things, but you can, which is ridiculous. So she can meet you out there on the corners of the map and just kill you. If you've seen the trailers that she has that mobility still about her. But I promise you, every Korra I have fought runs away and they wait or spam the same move over and over again. They spam Nair, and I think that move shouldn't kill if she's just going to throw it around all the time, but that's probably going to get patched out at some point. They didn't really do anything to Korra in the newest patch, and I think that they probably brought her up. They are happy with her, but I think she's a little bit too strong. Her recovery sucks to a degree, but it's also good because people who are good at slime empowerment, using the slime powered like up special is really good, and using the slime powered side special to get back and you're in a bad horizontal position is good. The thing is though, is that she needs those mechanics. If she doesn't cancel out of it or she doesn't empower the moves, she just dies. And every time I've like lazily edge guarded a Korra, she just will not come back because she can't. If she doesn't have those slime empowerments, that's her one thing, is that getting gimped is really bad for her. She really can't make it back if you hit her one time, or if you even meet her out there while she's trying to recover, it makes it really hard for her. So I think she's better than Azula just because Azula also has a hard time recovering, but she doesn't have as much ridiculous stuff as Korra. And even though Korra's been kind of getting buffed and like changed a little bit, people don't even use her metal move where she pulls you in. People don't even use that. So she's still largely unexplored, but the only reason people even are good with her right now, and I think that she's good right now, is because people are camping and running away. For some reason, I also think that her grab range is a little dumber than it should be. It shouldn't be longer than it is. Like, she shouldn't be able to shield grab at the same length away and get away with it, because I will be exactly away from her and try to grab and it'll miss, but she will grab me and the little tentacle arm of water will grab me, whereas I somehow whiff. You know what I mean? So I think they need to tone that down. It shouldn't be like that where I'm trying to perfectly space, yet I can't because this character can just grab me out of that perfect spacing. You know what I mean? So she's a little bit ridiculous just because people play her kind of lame, but once the meta evolves more, I feel like these other buffs on these other characters might help bring her down, because once other characters get buffed or nerfed, the meta aligns itself a little differently and Korra might find herself a little lower. She definitely felt like a mid-tier to me at first, but she's definitely grown on me, both being an annoying character and being a character that's faster than I thought she was. Okay, Zim, guys, Zim is not that great, and I don't know why they keep doing these things. Like in the newest patch, they're nerfing him again, but he's not even that ridiculous. I don't really think he needs to be nerfed over and over again, but the thing is, a lot of people don't understand is that if you empower zoners and projectile users, the game itself becomes less playable because no one wants to deal with that. No one wants to sit there and get camped out for 5, 6, 7 minutes, however long the timer is, to only be able to get in when you successfully predict when they're going to spam. You know what I mean? That's kind of why he's bad now, because he can't even spam really, and Gur kind of completely screws him on that mechanic. I thought there would be like a whole new world of Zim because of how Gur actually interacts with it, and he's so different than Nasby 1. But the problem with Gur is that if you don't have him, everything just gets worse for you, and if you don't have these certain things, it gets worse for you as time goes on. Like, if more people can figure out your habits on that character, even played optimally, he's kind of scary somewhat, but at the same time, not a very popular character. Even though I've played him a few times, I don't really think he feels that great. I fought a lot of them online, and I don't really feel that good about his moves. And with the patch 1.4 nerfing him again, I think that he'll probably be bottom tier with Nigel, or maybe maybe they switch places in the newest patch. But as of 1.3, I think that this character, he needed help. He didn't get help in the newest patch. He's probably gonna go down on the list again. Ember, same thing. I actually think that she might be better than Zim just because she's got like the stupid projectile and she's got like a different bar mechanic. I've been experimenting with her and playing her online. She's got some things that are kind of ridiculous, but if she had better speed and better mobility, I feel like she would be too much of a menace. So Ember being in C tier, I think makes sense just because in 1.3, I felt like all the things that she could do were pretty good, but they also is the same problem that she's had this whole time, is that she's slow, her disadvantage is bad, and her recovery is not good. She can like up special out of shield 3 times in a row. She can even cancel out of one of them and keep doing it to you, like I keep up specialing on you. But that's the thing about her, she can only do certain things. Like the forward air is pretty nice, her nair is okay. She's got these weird like Marth side special where she's got to do multiple button presses of the side special, and I think it's fine. I just don't feel like she's super broken because she doesn't really feel like she can like ledge trap forever. And if you mess up one of your moves if you're trying to ledge trap, then you kind of just have to eat whatever happens to you. A lot of other characters can like skip neutral or skip disadvantage. Ember can't really skip anything. She kind of gets stuck into one mode or the other. She can't really skip any of the actual parts of the game. Some characters can just skip right into punish game, whereas being a disadvantage isn't that big of a deal for some of them. Her disadvantage is pretty bad. Her advantage is okay, and that's kind of why I find her in C tier, because she's getting some help, but not the kind of help I would figure she would need to be good. But then again, not every character needs to be A and B and S tier. A lot of them can be mid tier or low tier, and that's okay. I will say if they make her too fast or they do something ridiculous to her, she will be broken. So I can see why they're not trying to do too much, because then they're going to have a Reptar situation, which Reptar, I still think he's good. There's not as many of them anymore because they all hate the game now. They've been getting nerfed the entire time they've been existing. But the thing is he's still really good. He might even be above Azula and still be prominent. I just think that his size and his ridiculously obvious move set is not helping him anymore because they made him slower, and you can kind of feel that those changes really kind of hurt him a lot. I was playing a lot of Reptar before anything happened to him, and seeing as how there wasn't really anything on the patch notes for this, they are probably fine with where he is. Maybe he's a high mid tier. I'm not saying that he's got nothing left to show us. He's still got the guarantee moves. He's still got really insanely strong moveset which he can use, but a lot of it's predictable and a lot of them don't really change or mix up. A lot of them kind of do the same exact thing over and over again, and once you get that level of staleness in your play and you can only go for the same exact stuff, everybody can read you easier. They're always going to want to nair. They're always going to want to run up to you and try and get a grab. They're always going to try to do maybe one move off ledge if they feel like they can gimp you. But that's the thing, if you have a recovery that's ridiculous and they don't, they kind of cannot do anything. Reptars are sort of supposed to be that mid tier like Plankton, where you guys can beat them up, you can play as them, they're fun, but they're not meant to be the pinnacle of every character. And because Reptar kind of was the pinnacle of heavies, he was a little too ridiculous. Him, Patrick, and like Plankton are like the only real grapplers, and they're not supposed to be ridiculous, which is why they've been toned down so much. But even in the 1.4 patch that came out, he's not being changed much, and his meta hasn't really shifted or anything crazy has happened. Now, if we talk about characters that I think are still not that great, I think Jenny will be a better character because the new 1.4 patch I think is going to help her. I had no idea she had this many bugs and issues. When I played her, she was fun, and I kept asking myself, why does every Jenny player play like a Samus? Why does every Jenny player only use her projectiles and run away the entire time when that's obviously not her best game plan? She's got big moves, and not only does her big moves mean something, she can also do a lot to you if you disrespect her big moves. If you don't show her respect and you think she's just going to camp you, if people actually got good at her combos, she would be not only a menace, she would probably be really good. But because she had all these glitches and bugs that I didn't even know about, that is barely getting changed in the 1.4 patch, I think that in 1.3 she needed a lot of help, and now that she's getting it, she'll probably be higher. But in the 1.3 patch, I don't think that she was that great. In fact, I've beaten so many of them in tournaments, I haven't even remembered what it's like to even fight a Jenny that can do the things that I think that she can do. Ren and Stimpy. Ren and Stimpy are a little ridiculous. They've had to get toned down in the newest patch, but that's because in 1.3 they were actually doing really good. The fact of the matter is, this character can come back every single time. No matter what you did in 1.3, if you actually couldn't edge guard them, they just lived. If you didn't get the car away from them or whatever, somehow they lived. In the 1.4 patch that just came out, they are actually nerfed, so they can't recover as well. So in this patch on 1.3, I think that they were actually ridiculous. They were probably better than Azula, maybe even up to par with like Aang. But the thing is about them is that they had some things that are ridiculous, like their back air kills at a weird percent. Their back throw also kills at a weird percent. Like they can do kind of really janky things at the same time. It doesn't look right, you know what I mean? Their animations don't feel chunky. They don't feel like they're gonna hurt you and kill you. But that's the thing about them that's so deceptive, they can very much kill you whenever they feel like it. That character, if he decides to be like a little bit creative and mix up in this patch, he could just side special whenever he wanted to. Like it's like Steve Minecart. He could just use the car whenever he wanted. If he got hit out of it, he just do it again. So it was a really, really interesting time to see Ren and Stimpy be this good. They might fall a little bit from grace because of this new patch that's coming out. Like 1.4 might change things, but we'll have to see how the meta shakes out. Danny Phantom. So Danny Phantom was arguably probably either above or tied with Raphael. The reason why I think he's right here and above everybody else that is below him is simply because he has all of these tools and he can camp and run away and use his teleportation as a hitbox, and it was a huge hitbox. Now, because he's getting nerfed in the newest patch, I don't really believe in him much at all anymore. He's probably going to drop to the bottom of A or maybe even top of B because everybody hates playing against him for whatever reason, and on top of that, everybody plays him the exact same. Now, the only ones who are really playing him really differently are few and far in between, so with the nerfs coming out, it'll make or break him. We'll see if he actually is going to stay good or not. To me, I think that if you have to play a certain way with a character, it means the character is not as good as you are with the character. The character doesn't carry you, you carry the character. The fact of the matter is, for Danny Phantom, I feel like it's a possibility of both worlds with him. If you're good at this character, not only does he carry you, you can carry the crap out of him, because if you find other ways to play, like optimally or running away or playing even a little bit like campy and trying to make people mad, you can even combo in ridiculous ways and get away with a lot of stuff like edge canceling and stuff like that. Being nerfed for Danny, I don't know how it's going to make him, but I will try and experiment them with a little more and play against them in the newest patch. SpongeBob, I actually think SpongeBob is not as good as I thought he was. He is like Mario, but the thing is about him in Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 is his stubby range really hurts him. If you can't get anything going with him, you do get shut out, and if somebody camps you, it's a little bit impossible feeling. Even though you can do it, I put him here at the bottom of A. I think that if he could do more, if he had longer range and didn't have to respect other players or characters as much, he probably would be better. But the fact of the matter is, he's not, only because like the characters he's fighting are so much better than he is that he's got to compensate for that in his combos. And his combo game is really good. He can do a lot of good combos, but I can't really see him taking over the world and becoming the end all be all of the meta. He's supposed to be more like an all-rounder that you can play and pick up at any level and be good with him. I think that he's good as a 1.3. I don't know how I feel about him in 1.4. I think we'll have to play him a little more, but I think that he's still pretty good and he's going to be good throughout the entirety of Nazby 2's lifespan. Also because of the fact that he's literally like the front of the page. Everybody loves SpongeBob, so he can never be bad. I feel like they can never make him bad, because if they do, his player base will immediately drop him because he's got to work hard as it is already. Donatello, I think, is actually maybe a little bit above Reptar, maybe a little bit below. I'm not necessarily sure yet, but this is pretty ordered, so I don't think I'm going to change much. But Donatello, to me, every single Donatello will camp, run away, and use their big moves to try to hopefully poke you. If you shield around this character, they can't really do anything because his landing lag, I guess, feels a little bit slower, because I don't feel like I've ever gotten pressured enough on my shield to the point where I felt like I could get grabbed. Donatello himself, I don't really feel like he can find those things as a kit on his own, because he kind of just has big moves he spams. And a lot of the things that he does doesn't really do much in terms of scaring you. It does combo pretty good, and he can kill up in the sky sometimes, and sometimes he can use like that 2-charge smash or whatever it is, that where he uses like the hammer. He can do those things, but he's more of a hard read based character. If he misses the hard reads, it's over for him. If you even stop his trickiness by destroying his smoke bomb where he can teleport to, if you pressure them even off ledge a little bit and they don't have smoke bomb out, they do not come back. They cannot come back. They have a bad recovery to me. It's like a cloud uppy, a cloud up special, but I don't really think it's as good because it goes up there, but he goes into like this weird tumble state immediately, and he doesn't really have the option to use the button again to come down fast. And I think that the character himself may need a little help, but I think if they made him too strong, he'd be ridiculous, and he kind of can't be buffed too much because he will be broken. And 1.4, I don't think they did much into him in the newest patch, but in the patch that we're doing this tier list on, 1.3, I think that he actually is decent. He's a mid-tier, and I think that Raphael just outshines him because of how ridiculously spammy Raphael is compared to him. Jimmy Neutron. Jimmy actually really good. I think he would almost be A tier if he didn't have these bugs that got fixed and patched out. The thing is about him is you have to have a really big brain. Like this character, his whole meme is that he's a genius, right? Well, you have to be a genius to play Jimmy Neutron. 100%, there's no way you play Jimmy and just pick him up for the first time and win and be good with him. There's no way you win a tournament by picking him up and just playing him. He is a mid-tier, mid-high tier maybe. I don't think he's top tier because he doesn't have anything broken enough to justify him being a top tier unless it's like gimmicky, but he has some surprise elements, like being hit with that one move, grabs you across the map or pushes you off the map. That move is a little ridiculous, but I don't really think that Goddard makes that much of a difference to have in his kit. He can do some really cool things, really cool complex combos, but I don't really see them killing all the time. He definitely has to think too much. I think you have to optimize his playstyle in order to even have success with him. He straight up needs somebody who is not only good at understanding orbital spacing, but somebody who is good at controlling more than one character at a time, which is kind of Zim's problem. But the reason why Jimmy is higher is because Jimmy's got moves that kill, and Jimmy just kills out of nowhere, and some of the moves he's hit me with surprise me that they kill me at all. So he has some things that go about him that save him and make him a better character than otherwise, but he definitely is a mid-tier, and I don't really see that changing unless they give him a lot of buffs. Plankton. I think that Plankton is worse than Reptar. I think that you cannot really justify playing him unless you're doing it for fun or the love of the character outside of that, because they nerfed his recovery in 1.2, I believe. So this 1.3 patch, he was definitely better in the beginning of the game. Like, as the game's gone on, they've been nerfing him more and more because they don't want him to be prominent, and because he has some ridiculous things like his catch-up. His empowered catch-up is ridiculously strong. I think that that's what saves him in an aspect, because he also has like a Rob side special where like he can like nair and it's like a huge multi-hit move, but his canceling is what makes him good. The problem is, how are you going to get all these canceling things done when you're getting rushed down and you need to live? Well, they took away his ability to spam his heavy moves to get back, and you can only use your up air like twice or something. They kind of gutted his recovery on purpose because he's not supposed to be able to live. He's supposed to be, as soon as you hit him off the map, he either dies or he gets edge guarded. As of 1.3, I feel like he's fallen off quite a bit just because like there's not a lot of representatives for him in the first place, but that's not really why I think he's not that great. The people who do play him at that high of a level have to work so much harder than other characters who just literally push buttons and win. Plankton has to think about what he's doing. He can't really even ledge dash that great, because if he doesn't react to something that's happening, he kind of just gets grabbed and rethrown and ledge trapped over and over again. And he's so big that you can't really get around things and micro space that great unless you're super confident with him. Even then, I feel like people camp him and he can't do anything. If he can't get in on you and he can't get near you, he has no hopes of beating you, and I feel like a lot of characters keep him away. Everybody who's above him can keep him away, or they just out combo / burst him, and everybody who's below him, he can just literally just mess with them for eternity, because unless he messes up, I feel like if you're good at shielding, you're good at grabbing, you're good at all these things that a grappler is good at, then he definitely wins and he can be strong. Squidward. I still think Squidward's really good. I think that, I don't know if he's better than the rest of the people above him. I don't even know if he's better than SpongeBob, because SpongeBob can kind of just combo the crap out of him. He can also combo them back. The thing is about him is that he has a chance to beat the characters that are above him, and everybody who's below him, he definitely slaps them. He doesn't really have to care as much because he's got clarinet, and that empowered clarinet projectile is so strong and ridiculous that it's made me kind of almost scared to even challenge it at all, because I have beaten it once, I think, and I've reflected it a few times. The problem is though that it's so fast when you empower it that you kind of just get bursted and you can't even see it coming at you, or if it's across the map, you have to like literally take away that entire part of the map. If the clarinet is coming at you, like the little note is coming at you, you have to dodge it or shield it. And even then, if he can get up on you and he has like his rage, which is crazy that he has rage still and he has all these things that empower himself, if he gets in on you, he combos hard. And the fact that the new patch also buffed him up a little bit and made him more consistent on his back air not being able to reverse anymore, I feel like he will still stay good and be an A tier in this 1.3 patch. But as soon as it goes to the new patch, he may go up a little bit. It depends on how he works in the meta. I think he's fine. I don't think that change is going to make him that crazy in the new patch, but in 1.3 I feel like he was right here anyway, and the new patch really only was kind of like a band-aid until the new big patch comes out. But we'll see where he goes, if they buff him in 1.5 or if he's just good right here and they just leave him at this point. He might be okay if he stays right there, because he has a chance to beat everybody above him, and he definitely can beat everybody below him. Rocco. I think Rocco, he's either bottom of A as of this patch in 1.3. He's either bottom of A in 1.3 or he's top of B. I think I might go out of my way and say that he is the bottom of A. Now the reason why I would say that is pretty much because he has the dumbest spamming in the game. You literally don't have to think at all, straight up. You can play Rocco like in 1.3 patch and you could literally just throw whatever you want and it would work out. They nerfed him really badly in 1.4, so he's definitely going to go back down to where Jenny is at as soon as this 1.4 patch is like realized. As of 1.3, he was ridiculous. The reason why there were so many Roccos in Slimebox, they were all top 8. The reason why they were all winning so much is because they could literally spam for no reason and had no repercussions. There was no reason to not spam. If you had a brain as Rocco and you knew how to spam optimally, that was it. You were not going to lose, because people can't deal with like 3 projectiles being out at the same time, running around with Spunky and him throwing out his pogo stick and covering a jump option. You know what I mean? So he's a bit of a ridiculous character. People say he's fun. I think he's kind of cringe in the way he plays. He's not really fun to me because he kind of just spams and runs around and throws things. He has some cool moves and cool things that I don't see anybody do. They kind of just focus on his projectiles too much. So now we're going to see what the real good Roccos are made of. They're not going to be able to spam anymore in 1.4, and he's probably going to go back down to C tier, like I said, in the newest patch. I'm probably going to do another tier list on that one in 1.4 because it's one thing to get spammed on. It's another thing to get spammed on with intention. So hopefully Rocco stays up maybe in B tier once this new 1.4 patch nerfs the crap out of him. But he's lucky he got to see the heights of A tier. He looks so happy there. I wish I could keep him there, but he's definitely going to be happy in a C tier once this new patch hits. Now we have the last three characters. I think that April O'Neil is actually maybe a little bit better than these characters, but a little worse than the rest that she's up with. Now, I think that it's because they keep making her, they had to fix a lot of glitches with her and change a lot of things that came out 1.4, but I really feel like the characters that are above her just rush her down or burst her, and she can deal with that easily. But in terms of brain power, those characters you can kind of autopilot. Everybody that's above her, you can autopilot with success. April, you can never autopilot because the moment you do, you start losing. You have to actually be in the moment and understand her ratings. You have to understand her range a lot, and you have to really think about when you're using your camera and how you edge guard / camp with your camera. The thing is, her camera is way worse than it is in NASB 1. It has such a less like priority. It doesn't have that falling hitbox anymore. So every time you go in the air and drop it on somebody, it doesn't do anything. Damage output is kind of bad. It is a good tool to use, but you're pretty much forced to use it because you have no other ways of stopping people from camping you. It does eat projectiles, and I like it against projectiles. It's like your own little wall. But the problem with her is that if you rush her and you don't let her breathe, she has the same problems as Captain Falcon, where like if you rush that character, they have no get off me options. So like she can only jab you and maybe try to up special nair. Like she has to do a sequence of things like nairing out of shield or like maybe up smashing. But that's pretty much it. She can't really do anything crazy out of shield. And if she does down special and like do her little ZSS double jump thing, she can get away with some mobility stuff, but it's not that great. I think that she's amazing, but at optimal play, I feel like everybody above her kind of just stomps her naturally. So you have to play a lot harder than they do, and you have to think a lot more than they do. The reason why she's next to Patrick, by the way, is because I fought them in tournament and I lost to one. And it's because that character is ridiculous, but it's also because you have to keep people away from you. If they get in on you, you are going to die. So people who are below her, she definitely beats them, but it's harder. The people above her, she has a chance to beat them, but they just naturally diff her. So she naturally loses to those characters above her, I think, in 1.3. Lucy Loud. So I'm not gonna lie, I don't really know where to put Lucy Loud because there's not very many of them anymore, and she definitely has some things that I think have been changed, but I still think she's really strong. She might be above SpongeBob because I feel like every time you play as SpongeBob, you can't really do anything to her because she's got that mobility, she's got the speed, she can change up whether or not she wants to be speedy or have another different move, and she wants to be vampire mode and she wants to be ghost mode. So that's the thing about her, she's got a lot of creative stuff, and you can really think about how you want to play her and change up a lot of ways of playing her. She has a lot of expression, and I feel like the characters below her maybe don't have as much expression. That's what makes her good, is that she has this expression, but that makes her also have a hard time because if you have too much expression, not enough optimality in your play, you're not optimal with her, it's kind of going to be hard for you to do things. She kills really easily, which is why she's this high, but the moment you start second guessing what you're doing is kind of when she falls apart. She definitely has some things going for her that I really like about her still, and she's a complex character. I don't think she's the overlord of the game. I don't think she's like this all-encompassing like strong character, but I think she's up there, and I'm wondering what the patches are going to bring to her, whatever she's going to look like at the end of the game's lifespan, and how strong she will be as the future goes. A lot of people are getting good with her. People are still good with her from when they played NASB 1, so we'll see how that shakes out with that. I think she's definitely up there in A tier, a deserved character to be up there. Angry Beavers. You know what? Before the nerfs that are coming through on patch 1.4, because we're in this patch 1.3 tier list right now, I really think that they were actually stupid. Now that I think about it, every time I fought them, it always felt like they were going to do some crazy combo to me. They had to work hard, sure, but the moment that they got me, they would always get these guaranteed regrabs, and it was ridiculous. They could kill you at dumb percents. They could follow you into the sky, like Norbert just follows you up there and kills you, to the point where they are getting nerfed in the newest patch. They already got nerfed in the newest patch on 1.4, but this patch before this, I can't believe that they were allowed to get away with this for so long. They were so good for so long and unchecked. I feel like the only reason why they were considered not that great is because they have to use their brains in a different way. You have to understand how to use your clone, like how to use the opposite character. It's like a increased understanding of how to play like Ice Climbers, but like on a different level, because you can switch between them. You can teleport between them. Once you throw somebody out, you can actually keep them out there and then teleport between the two, which is ridiculous, by the way, because I didn't know that's how it worked when the game first came out. Like Norbert could throw Dag and he can literally teleport to Dag as him and then start hitting you. Is ridiculous. Like that's actually insane, and it's a hard mind game to get around because you have to think at all times, oh, they might switch, oh, they might swap, oh, he's got his special out, is he going to switch between places? You know, they are so tricky that when they had these kill moves, it almost felt like ridiculous to a point where they might even have almost been one of the better characters in the A tier. They almost were better than Raphael. If they had the ease of play as Raphael and the brokenness of Danny, in patch 1.3 they would have been invincible. If nothing had changed for them, they probably would have been even higher because Raphael and Danny are getting nerfed. If they hadn't gotten nerfed in this new patch like all three of these characters are, they definitely would have had to get nerfed at some point because they are so strong and so different than everybody else that it's hard to keep them in line. You can really be expressive with them and be crazy with them with a lot of different ways. You don't have to play some certain way. You can even play with just Norbert if you wanted to. There's not really much say in how you play them because you can kind of express yourself through playing them. They're a ridiculous character and I'm glad they're getting changed somewhat, but I kind of can't help but feel like they shouldn't have been so nerfed. I feel almost like it was a lot. These three characters in the A tier got nerfed a lot, including the S tiers. Both El Tigre and Gerald are getting nerfed in 1.4. So this is where they landed, I think, in 1.3. Now that's probably the most ridiculous I've seen this tier list become. We've seen a lot of characters go from bottom tier to high tier, and there's no other winner than Gerald. Gerald shocked all of us with how strong he was, and the fact that they had to bring him back down to earth in the newest patch makes me really believe that if they didn't mess with him, he probably would have overtaken El Tigre and Garfield at some point because of how much people were optimizing him and how expressive and different each Gerald is. But now that we're done with 1.3 and this new patch came out on 1.4, it was the fastest transition patch I've ever seen. I'm happy to see that Gerald actually was up there because I do believe that everybody is right, including me. I think that we're all correct in saying that he was ridiculous. He and El Tigre were probably like the two characters that I think up there in the S tier that were somewhat played at a middle understanding. You could be really good with them, but now it's going to be in this new patch coming out, they're going to have to be played a certain way to be good because they have nerfed a lot of stuff on them. You can still play El Tigre probably the same way. Garfield has largely been untouched. They didn't do anything to him this new patch came out, so I think Garfield's still going to stay up there, and I will keep hammering down that El Tigre was ridiculous. But now with the new patch coming out, it's probably going to change a lot. I'm looking forward to seeing how this patch is going to change everything. Let me know down below in the comments, guys, if you guys agree with my tier list, and if you guys think that it's going to be the same in 1.4. I think it's going to change a lot because the newest patch is definitely going to gut some things that I think needed to be addressed, and I'm looking forward to seeing how everything turns out. If you guys like what you've seen and you want to see more videos in the future, make sure you like and subscribe and hit the bell button so you can see everything I do every gosh darn week, soldier. And I'll see you next time in the next video. Goodbye. Ooh, we ride.